There were so many hard times in my life back then that sometimes I think you don't even want to remember them hard times, but the hard times is what makes the man.
This is the Basu Lifestyle Show. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel.
Well, going back to the young days, my father just was a small restaurant owner from a young boy, and I worked with family my whole life, and that's all I ever knew. So I was kind of like born and bred into it. But my passion was fitness, and as you know, Tony, it's not all what some people claim it to be. Most gyms don't make it. So I opened my first studio in 2007, and very little money, very similar to story to you. And I don't want to say do bad. I just really wasn't making money. I'm doing security. We're in the nightclub business at the time as well, and catering. So I'm doing security, bartending, whatever it takes to make $100. And for my first, I bought my first elliptical in 2005 for my bodybuilding. And I had bought and sold a few things many, many years ago, way before the gym. And when I opened the gym, I realized real quick that I did not have enough money to do what I needed to do. And basically the gym evolved for me. If y'all remember back in 2008, 2009, 2010, people don't remember what the economy was like. People are talking shit now saying, this is bad, or gas prices. Diesel was $5 a gallon back then. And that's when I was opening my businesses. And what ended up happening was I started buying little mom and pop gyms that was, I don't want to say they were going out of business for number of reasons. And I would go buy 4 or 5 pieces. And that led to me kind of getting a little name for myself. And I was not doing it just so to make a profit on the equipment. In fact, when I would sell equipment back in the day, I would put it in my studio gym and sometimes sell it 6 months later. I would sell it 6 months later and really not make a profit on it, but I got to use it for free. Well,
you got use out of it. You got to work out.
Right. And so I'm kind of still building a name for myself at this point, and a gym would fall into my lap here or there, nothing crazy. And I now had a storage unit. And just one storage unit led to 4 storage units. 4 storage units led to one shithole of a warehouse. So to the second shithole of a warehouse, to the next third shithole of a warehouse. So now I got them all over Alamance County. And this is early 2000s. And back before it was cool to do what I do, I mean, I want to say this on here because I've not done many of these before, and the story can kind of change because it's so much to process. There were so many hard times in my life back then that sometimes I think you don't even want to remember them hard times, but the hard times is what makes the man. So for me to think of all these things, I was really doing it out of just sheer love and passion for fitness. It was never, I never in a million years thought, hey, we're going to open up one of the biggest gym equipment companies. I had no fucking clue what I was getting involved in, but I did have passion. I had the hard work ethic, and I had the type that I wouldn't sleep to make it work. There was points in times, and still is, that the house was on the line. There's $50,000 in credit card debt, and I'm literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. Had no clue what was going to turn into what people know now as Superfitness. So if I ever hear somebody say, not just about myself, this is anybody, hey, Tony's an overnight success, or Steven's an overnight success, it's really many, many years culmination of someone's success. Because if they learn the brass tacks about somebody and what they've been through, this is 2000. I don't even know if I've ever told you this, Tony, 2000, maybe 12. I finally got some decent storage, and some things were falling into my lap as far as equipment goes. But y'all got to remember, there was not places like there was not a ton of places like what would exist now. So I didn't know where to look for equipment and things like that. So I started on Craigslist was a big deal back then. And Craigslist turned into, I had 400 ads at all times. I would start around 10 p.m. and work till 4 o'clock in the morning after working all my other jobs, soliciting my equipment on there. Every single post, I would write a paragraph, each individualized of where the piece came from, that it's been cleaned and serviced. And I would write a story because I feel like a story tells the tale. And people would come. Right, Tony, right. And people would come to my old house. I had a big garage. That's where I would keep some of the cardio back then. And I would literally tell these stories to people. And they would say, where did you get this equipment? And I'd say, oh, I bought out Tony's studio. I would tell them the truth. And I would say, I own a little studio in Burlington and these ellipticals are $6,000 and I'm selling them for $700 or whatever it was. And it's a great deal for somebody. And honestly, y'all, I might've been buying them for $500, putting some money in them, making $100. Like it wasn't what it was cracked up to be, but it was feeding my family. It was feeding myself. It was creating a business. And I'm just trying to keep my gym afloat, just so you know, like.
You and I both know that the gym equipment market, there is margin on some stuff, but on some shit there isn't. They sell it to you for what you can sell it for because fuck you, they can, or just because they can't get it done cheaper. So you're not 100%. Not every single piece is a slam dunk. You might even just break even on some of the pieces. It's when you sell packages or help people, or like what you do, you help us curate our gyms. Like we get to go through and we get to ultimately cherry pick everything and anything that we like, knowing that we can customize color after the fact on our end. Like
100%. And Tony, thank goodness over the past 15, 16 years, I've met a lot of you and you hit me up for your equipment and it's a volume game. And for instance, as you know this, dumbbells, plates, there's very little money to be made. When people come in my warehouse, I'm happy to accommodate them. But if they come in and bought a pair of 20s, you know as well as I do, if I made 8 cents a pound, that we made nothing, literally.
But you made a friend and a loyal customer for whenever they do need the next big thing.
I always tell people this story, and it really opened my eyes. And I may have told you this before or not, but I'll say it out in the public's eye. I had a man, I think it was 2012. It was at my old warehouse. And I used to buy these Life Cycles, Tony. Life Cycle was the recumbent bike back in the day.
Yeah, we had two.
And I would buy these
2 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. They still work.
No, it still works.
I would buy them for $250. This is no lie. And I would put them online for $299. Now, let me explain to you. I would clean and service them, sometimes have to fix them, stuff like that. So if you may be questioning, well, Steven, how did you make any money? And honestly, y'all, I wasn't, but it was what you just said, Tony. I was building a name. I was building a reputation. And I was like, you got to give to receive type thing. It's no different than we building our gyms. It's one person at a time. It's creating a culture. It's creating a, when they walk into the gym, you're like hollering at them. They love that. So back then, this older gentleman come in and he was like in a small SUV. I cannot remember what. I remember like it was yesterday. I had a bad day or something. He wants this recumbent bike and it would not fit in the SUV. And he is dead set on taking it apart. I'm like just wanting him to leave. I'm not making any money on the bike. Like, come on, dude. Well, he just kept insinuating we're going to get it in there. And we did get it in there. But it took forever. It was just one of them days. Well, when he loaded that up and before he left, he said, Steven, he said, I have a good friend and I'm going to tell him all about you. I appreciate your generosity, how nice you were. Guys, I have no idea at this point who his friend is. Months go by. I'll never forget it. A guy makes an appointment with me, walking around my warehouse. At the time, he spends like $40,000. And this was a lot of money back then, and especially a lot of money. Tony, I was not doing the $500,000 deals back then. Like
Right.
50 to
That's what you guys
100,000, right? 50 to 100,000 in early 2000s. That could buy you a lot of equipment back then, Tony. Like,
Yep.
like, you know what I'm saying? So the guy buys all this equipment from me, and he says, man, my friend loved you. He told me all about you, and he's saying this guy's name. I still, y'all, have no clue what this gentleman is talking about. And it hits me like a ton of bricks that the guy that I made no money on, that bought $300 bike, just sent me a 40-some thousand dollar deal. Yes.
Yeah.
And I preach this to the young generation and everybody nowadays. I always tell them, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge what somebody pulls up in the car. It's like, treat them all the same, because you don't know. The guy that don't look like it, he's got deeper pockets than the guy that pulls up in the 3-piece suit in the Mercedes Benz.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, that's the whole thing, is you're building a rapport with people. So like the guy who doesn't have the 40,000 has friends who have the 40,000. So, but
right.
I love it. It's, you've gained a customer by doing the right thing.
100%.
Was the goal at that point to build a gym, or was the goal at that point to build as the equipment guide for everybody to come to?
So that's a good question.
Yeah.
At this point in time, let's call it 10 years ago. Let's just say 10, 11, 12 years ago. I don't know if I believed in myself enough back then. It's not that I didn't believe in Steven. I think I'm questioning, I don't have the funds. I don't have the warehouse. I don't have $1 million to go buy equipment. I don't have 5 box trucks, forklifts, the whole 9. So I think the goal was to keep building the gym and do this on the side, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't really know where it was going to lead me. I grew up in the restaurant business, and I said that earlier, but in 2012, I bought a restaurant because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And me and my wife was married in 2015, and I sold it right before we got married. And it was like almost like we almost divorced before marriage. We were working together. We were working 30 some hours a week just on the weekend. We were pulling 10, 12 hours a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because that was the busy times. Plus I was running my gym and doing the equipment. So I shit you guys not, at that point, I think I was still finding myself not exactly sure. I thought I needed to be in the restaurant business because all my family was in the restaurant business. Also at this time, this is 15 years ago, people would almost make fun of me for doing what I'd done. Like, what do you want all that old junk for? Or Tony, the old body masters that people hammer strength craving for now. People didn't understand it. They would look at it as scrap metal. I would look at it as gold. Like, I'm like, I love it. There's somebody in the world that loves it as much as me. And, you know, back in the day, I would have 5 Nebula leg presses at a time. I would hunt them down and go across everywhere. That don't exist anymore. It's virtually impossible to find 1 or 2. But to answer the question on what exactly happened, when I sold the restaurant, I had this conversation with my father, and my dad said, my dad was said to me, he said, Steven, I see big potential and people love you. He said, you go with what you love to do and you are not enjoying this restaurant. So the second I sold the restaurant, I took 2 of my friends full-time with me. I didn't even know how I was going to afford them. And I was like, we went full-blown steam ahead in the gym equipment world. And I never looked back since. And there's so many little points that I could tell you guys of, like, finding the warehouse, like my old warehouse I'm talking about. So many people, I almost feel like God sent, because when you're purposely driven and not purposely for the money, I feel like the money can fall into place, because there's doors that have been opened that I didn't open, that legitly somebody else opened them for me from a higher power. And to me, it's crazy, because It's like when Tony, you walked in my warehouse, we had no idea. You booked a flight like almost immediately, but
Yeah.
me and you hit it off, and we've been friends ever since. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, like you can call me, text me, whatever. Half the time we don't even talk about gym equipment.
I was
We're
just
just
gonna say the same thing. Half the time we're just bullshitting.
right. And
Seeing what's going
to
on.
me, when I came to your gym on the grand opening and I saw the people and I saw like, so first of all, to let you know, it's pouring down rain on his grand opening. I'm on an Uber ride over there thinking nobody's going to show up. And when I say rain, it's monsooning. Am I lying,
Yeah.
Tony?
No, it was a shit day.
And all of a sudden, there's already a ton of people there, and they just keep coming and keep coming and keep. I'm blown away. And it was because the culture that was built from the other gyms, and these people love the brand, and they wanted to see the new shit that we put in there. And like, I wasn't proud of myself that I sold Tony the equipment. I was proud of what, and hell, the gym was probably only what, about 80%. Like you were taking TVs at midnight.
Yeah,
like,
cleaning the floors at 2 a.m., making sure that we were good.
Right. And to me, that's what makes the difference in a person or a business is all the little things. I even posted on my Facebook earlier today. I was like, it's the little things over time that you've done for 20 years that build up that make the biggest difference in business or financial success or even marriage. Like you got to put work in to make shit happen. My dad used to say, you got to turn chicken shit into chicken salad. And it means a lot to me because of the fact that, like, you know, most successful people, and I'm not saying most, but a lot of them, if you really talk to them and you heard their story, they come from nothing. A lot of them come from Tony, Dave Bautista. When I met him for the first time, I talked to him on the phone and stuff like that, but he almost got teary-eyed and said, man, the old equipment that I was purchasing that I had been hunting down looking for, it meant a lot to him. I didn't realize a lot of these wrestlers came from nothing. They're doing little tours around the United States for pennies, but they're doing it for the love of it. I love to hear success like that because, like, when I see somebody and they've been financially successful or whatever they've done, like, they deserve that. And I think that's what a lot of people miss the boat on.
When you think about cases like that, like you said, these athletes who are on the world stage who have come from squander and gotten to where they've gotten, I mean, it's by way of fitness and
Agreed.
having a freaking good head on your shoulders, like making good decisions when you get opportunities presented for you. But you got those opportunities because of your love of fitness and what it's done for you.
Sure.
So, like, I know exactly the pieces that you're talking about. And I'm jealous because I want Nautilus Nitro in my home gym too one day. But but like his
Paramount pendulum, I owned that piece for 10 years. And I promised his trainer that if I ever, they kept begging me for it. And I said, if I ever sell it, it was pristine. I'll give it to you exactly what I paid for. Tony, I could have put that on the market 3 times what I sold it for. And it wasn't not the principle to me of the money.
Oh yeah.
It was the principle. I wanted it to go to a good home and I wanted it to go to somebody who wasn't selling it. Right. That was all it was to me.
Yeah. And
that's all it was.
A coach who knows how to put it to work.
You know, the dumbbells that come out of your gym, they're still sitting in the back of my warehouse. I've not done anything with them yet, but the plan is I'm going to display them at some point because to me, you know, that's very valuable to me. Somebody might look at those and not give a shit. They think they're not worth pennies a pound, but to me, they're worth money. To me, you get what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah.
You know,
like if you grew up in an old school gym, you had your circus dumbbells in your space, and
100%.
While I love them to death, they were just they were like the one last thing in our gym that left people's clothing orange. And I'm like, I love you guys, but you got to go.
Yeah. No. You made the right decision you needed to do 2 things: give them to somebody like myself, or put them in your garage. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, 100%.
People don't want the orange stains on their Instagram posts.
No.
You hear me? That's what it's all about these days, right? Especially the young generation.
So, didn't you have a tanning studio at 1.2? Didn't we talk about that?
Yes, sir. So
was that like adjacent to the gym at the same time?
Yes. So I'll tell y'all my backstory of the actual opening of the gym, which led to the gym equipment. So what ended up happening, we're in the nightclub business. I'm 19 years old, and basically the rug gets pulled out from under us. And there's a long story behind that. We're in a hotel, and we were getting noise ordinance and all this stuff. And my cousin married a man who owned a gym when I was probably 14, 15, and I started working out at the gym many, many years ago. And I started working out there, I should take that back, at 12 to 13 years old, and then started working there a couple of years later. So I knew the fitness industry, and I did not work there for the money. I worked there because I enjoyed it. It's just something to do. When we shut down the club, I was doing bartending, catering, and stuff like that. So I was able to bartend because I worked for my family, because I was young. I was not 21. And so basically nobody said anything. But I realized real fast, I'm like, I took more hours on at the gym, but that did not pay my bills. No. And I had a buddy that I used to wait tables with that was doing gym promotions. And I went to Mooresville, North Carolina, to do a gym promotion. And the way it was based, Tony, you got a base salary, but it was basically like a draw plus commission. And back many years ago, this is, gosh knows, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, they would send out, actually, y'all, it was like, no, we're talking 20 years ago. God, I'm getting old. They would send out mass mailers, and they would put somebody. So like, Tony, imagine me coming to your gym. I don't work for you, but we're doing the gym promotion for you, and they take a percentage of the money. That's how it was back then.
Like outside trainer sales. Got
it. Yes, just like that. So I went to Mooresville, North Carolina. I'd done one for 3 weeks, and they trained me, and I'd done okay. It was the gym. It just didn't make a lot of money. So I didn't make much money. And they got this gym that was like 60,000 square feet called Auburn Wellness. It was in Auburn, Massachusetts. Jay Cutler actually started out many years ago there. I got the opportunity to go there, and I took it. And I went there, and I made the gym almost $300,000 in 6 weeks, I think it was. I absolutely killed it. And I made myself a good chunk of change for a 19, 20-year-old kid. It was the most money I'd ever made in my life. Like, when I came back, like, I no longer wanted to work for my dad. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, and my dad's like, this is crazy. It was just the right gym. Well, while I was in Auburn, Massachusetts, they had a tanning salon in there. Tanning was killing it up north back then. So I'd met the owner and his son, and me and son become friends. And they had worked a deal out with me. They said, listen, Stephen, you tour each person that comes to sign up at the gym through our tanning salon, and you can tan here every day if you want to for free. So I would kind of hang out there, not just tan. I would kind of hang out there just because I like those guys. And I went to the gym from 8 in the morning till 10 at night, 7 days a week. So it was a long day. So I had nothing better to do because that's all I did. So long story short, I learned the tanning business through those guys. I came back home, and a guy that was doing some website stuff for me says, hey, Steven, you ever tanned in this place? It was called All About Tanning and Nails. And I said, no, sir. He said, well, the guy, it's been there a long time, and the guy's got it for sale. Well, what happened was he had just opened, or it was already open. He had took ownership. Supposedly he had spray tanned somebody, and they had went to the police for like sexual, like he said something to them or something. I'm not exactly sure, honestly. And I went there, and I had a Corvette at the time that was fully owed on, Tony, and couldn't barely make the payments. Well, I took back then you could do a stated doc, and I took a line of credit off of this stated doc, and then paid the remainder of the car balance off, and took the car title, basically double dipped, and took out another loan with the car title, which I know sounds insane, and went and bought the tanning salon from the gentleman. So talk about playing with fire. My parents thought I was crazy. And I bought the
where
tennis.
there's a will, there's a way, because that's not the way normal people think.
100%. No. Agreed.
Yeah.
And I set up a credit card machine, and I started learning the tanning business. The tanning salon started doing on the busy season 200 tens a day, like crazy busy. Well, I'd done that for about 3 months, and I realized summertime hit. Nobody was tanning. So I'm like, oh shit, how am I going to pay the bills? And what I had always done, I was in the fitness world. And this is the bay downstairs from where my tennis salon was a coffee shop. It had went out of business. I was friends with the landlord, and the landlord says to me, or I go approach the landlord. He's an older gentleman. And I said, what are you going to do with that space? And he said, Steven, I don't have nobody. I said, would you rent it to me and just let me start paying when I open the doors? So basically, like I could do some little bit of upfit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Tony had no equipment. He says, sure. And I told my parents, I said, I'm going to open a gym. They're like, how are you going to go do that? So at this point, I'd only bought and sold a couple cardio pieces, nothing like what I do. And I shit you not, the only thing I owned to my name that was paid for was, was a GSXR 750, and it was my baby. I'd paid every payment on it, could put a lot of money in it.
Nice
well, say what?
That's a nice bike.
Yeah. So I don't even know how this happened, to be honest with you, but I meet a gentleman, and Tony, I may have put the bike up for sale. I can't remember, but maybe that's how I met him. But I meet a gentleman who was Mr. Georgia, who owned a big Gold's Gym in one of the cities in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And Gold's Gym, he owned his own. Gold's Gym was buying his gym. So they were buying his gym, but they didn't want any of his old equipment. It was all Body Masters and Hammer Strength. When I walked into your one gym, that was my gym over 15 years ago. Yeah. Almost identical, old school like that. So I'm talking to him on the phone. I said, I would like to purchase some of your equipment. He says, how much money can you come up with? This is at a time the economy is shit, nothing selling. This is 07, 08. So I said to him, I had about $10,000 cash to my name. And that was Rob and Peter paying Paul, not paying other bills, by the way, coming up with 10 grand. He says, well, I would take your motorcycle on trade. He said, how much do you have in that bike? And at the time I had $20-some thousand. He said, what do you think it's worth? And I said, I have no idea. He said, well, it ain't worth 20-some thousand. And he said, my equipment's not worth what I paid either. He said, bring the bike and the money and we'll work a deal. And so I had a buddy of mine with his pickup truck, put the bike on the back of a trailer, and we drove to Georgia with $10,000 cash and the bike. And the man loaded me up a whole semi truck of Body Masters, Hammer Strength, everything like that for the money, because he was basically getting paid through Gold's. And that's what I started my original studio with. Yeah. And Tony, here's even the backstory of this. I'm in Georgia, and he says, well, you got to pay. How are you getting home? You got to pay for a truck home, like a semi truck. I'm like, oh shit, Tony, I didn't have the money to pay for the shipping. So he puts it on his credit card. I remember correctly, it was like $1,500 on my word that I was going to pay him. Now, this is dating back many years ago. Yeah. And as soon as I got the money, I called and paid him. Of course I did, because I don't do business that way. But that little story of meeting that man, there's 100 of those along the way of me meeting the right person that met the right deal. It's insane to me. And that's why sometimes I get emotional, when I go back telling the story because there's so many moving parts, because nobody would believe some of the shit that I told them, because it's things happen like this. I think that was supposed to happen that I never in a million years thought that was supposed to happen, if that even makes sense.
So how did you get in?
Go ahead.
Okay. Do it.
So did you get into business and then figure out business as you go? Because everybody else usually has 45 plans, this, that, and the other. It sounds like you just are I'm going to do this business, and then you just figure it the fuck out.
I literally back then winged everything. At 19 years, on my 18th birthday, my friends took me to a place called In Club. It was the nightclub downtown Greensboro. And I walked in. I'd never been to a nightclub, partied, anything in my life, but I've always been an entrepreneurial spirit. And I used to give my family ideas all the time in the restaurant business. And I walked in, it was $10 a person to get in. And it was probably 700 to 1,000 people in there. And I went home instantly. And my dad says, I told my dad, I said, Dad, we need to get into nightclub business. There's nothing like this in our town. And we used to throw like New Year's parties at our restaurant. And my dad would just invite his friends. And this is a totally different clientele. So when I was 19 years old, my dad found the spot and we opened the nightclub. The third weekend, we had 500 people coming every Saturday night, all off me just telling, I've always been pretty good at marketing, but me by just being me and just telling people, hey, this, that, hey, come see us, blah, blah, blah. And,
marketing.
Right. I feel like sometimes you can have the best game plan, but you got to figure shit out as it goes. And now don't get me wrong. If me and Tony opened up a new business in today's world, I would want my ducks in a row. I don't know if I got the balls to do that shit no more, but
yeah,
I'll put it to you like this. And I know, Tony, you've been there before too.
We both have wives and families to answer to.
Right. But back then, what did I have to lose? I didn't have no money. What am I going to lose? My time? I think that some people, they think too much and that causes them to panic. It's like right now, I didn't know what we were going to speak upon. Tony told me nothing. So I was like, let's hop on here. And I think I just like people being real with me. And if there's a problem, hey, tell me, we'll sort it out. I think sometimes people beat around the bush too much or just think too much, which causes them to panic. And then that causes a problem to open the business to begin with. Because sometimes your first reaction is your best reaction. So it's just do it and then go with the flow. And honestly, that's how I've really took the whole gym equipment thing. Was the same situation. It was figuring out as I go. We didn't even know how to palletize. I didn't own a box truck. I wish, Tony, you could have saw my first green box truck. It was a sight to see.
My first gym equipment. That was
I already know.
Yeah, it was just a fucking shit show. It was it's 4 big idiots with 5 broken dollies and a bunch of fucking curse words and sweat.
And you're trying to manhandle the equipment, which you shouldn't do. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, trust me. I know it's funny how you learn, but just like with anything, I think you figure it out as you go, and then things start falling into place, and you become smarter. The Steven from 19 years old. Right. I agree, Tony.
All the failures, okay, we don't go down that way anymore because we went down that way and it was fucked up. We went this way and it wasn't. Let's go this way. It's just once you can build up on the simplest, once you've surpassed what the easiest things to fail on are, and that base is already supported, the harder things you can figure out. Hopefully you're
100%
figuring them out at that point. You got a team.
Yeah. So to let you know, Tony sat in my office when you flew down here, I think the second time, Tony, we were probably in my office talking for maybe 3 hours, and you told me a lot of your story. You remember, and it was like a heartfelt story. That's when I knew I'm Tony is successful in what he's successful at, because Tony's kind of like me. He don't have nothing to lose, meaning he's got everything to win. And if he went back to ground zero tomorrow, you'd build back up, Tony. I know you would, just like I would. So it's I feel like when you've learned from the past and you've done all these things, it's I think I just have the mindset that it's okay, today's shit. Today, nothing's right's happened. Tomorrow's going to be a new day. When you have that mindset, you really can't go wrong, if that makes sense.
Well, that goes to talk to that's why what Steve had said earlier too about looking down your Insta and enjoying the motivational aspect is because Steven's one of the most well-read and well-listened people that I know. He doesn't, every time I call him, he's on a podcast bettering himself. And so when people can understand and connect with. Like, you don't just sell gym equipment. It's what you
Sure.
do. It's not who you are. You also are one of the nicest human beings I've ever met, and you spread positivity on your social media, which I think is fucking great. And you're a family man.
I appreciate that.
You can tell that your life revolves around your children and your wife, and that's beautiful.
Sure. No, and I appreciate that. And I know you're the same way. And I completely agree. You know, I kind of sometimes get mad that if somebody just thinks I'm a gym equipment sales guy. And I told somebody in here literally earlier this week, I said, a guy walked in, Tony. We knew each other through mutual people, but he drove 4 hours from here. I had no clue till after the fact we knew. He's a car sales guy. So you know how they are. And he was extremely nice. But when he came to my office, he was buying a handful of pieces. And I looked him dead in the eyes and I said, sir, he asked me, Tony, what do I need to put in my gym? And I told him and I said, look, just so you know, I'm not trying to sell you. And he looked me dead in the eyes and he said, Steven, I can smell a bullshitter. I sell cars. That's what I do. I'm a car salesman. So he was kind of cracking a joke on car salespeople. And he said, I can 100%. He was giving me a compliment. Yeah. He said, I can 100%. You don't give a shit if I buy this equipment today. You're trying to help the gym. And I said, sir, I said, if you spend 10 grand or whatever any customer spends, I hope you make 50 back. I'm telling you to put these pieces in because it's going to make a big difference in your gym. And me and you've talked about this many times. There's select pieces that are expensive that you should put in, but you're going to draw 50 people from other members of other clubs. So you should spend the money. Like, it's a no-brainer. So
and you're coming from an aspect of you are also a gym owner. You currently own and operate a successful facility, which I think you should make everybody who goes to your warehouse stop at the gym first.
I've been doing that. I agree. I completely agree with you. And they actually left the people I'm talking about.
See the gym, like when you walk into your gym from the outside, you know that there's a gym there, but you don't know there's a gym there until you walk in, and then you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
There's 3 freaking rooms that just go on and on with the best gym equipment. I mean, you have a hookup for gym equipment, I assume, you know.
Sure.
Your own warehouse, but you got the best equipment all the time, and you're always updating it. Which I'm like, shit, man, I don't want to leave your gym either.
Well, and part of me, you know that because I'm in the business, I feel like I need to support all my other friends in business, and I need to feel like I have the best equipment. But as you know, I am friends with a lot of the manufacturers, but I will tell you straight up, hey, I don't like this hammer strength piece, or I do. And that's what I think the difference is, because a lot of the gym owners nowadays are just putting cookie cutter shit in their club that doesn't function worth a shit. And to me, that is not what a gym should be. Just because it's pretty does not mean it functions good. And you know this because when we set up the last club, we put all hammer strength, Arsenal, Nautilus. I mean, there was all Rogers. There was a bunch of different things we put in there, but we were very selective and we put select pieces of each. And it was overwhelming to hear the compliments that day. And I'm sure for the past year, like, you know, people was like, wow, this thing's decked out in equipment. And that's what I feel like every club owner, because not one manufacturer makes the best of everything. You know that. Like,
and even if they did, you're finding that some of the manufacturers don't make shit that fit people my size, and they don't make shit that makes people who are 4 foot something or 5 foot something. Like, it's not made for short or tall people. It's made for average height people, or it's the complete opposite. You must be 6 foot tall to ride this ride. So now you've got a piece of equipment taking up 20 square feet. If a 4x6, if a 4x6 square is its surface area, that's 24 feet that you're not making money on for half of the gym.
100%. 100%.
If you can't use it, if the majority can't use it, then it's just wasting space. And while it might be a sweet ass piece, it might be a sweet ass piece you need in your home gym.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you. And that's what I normally tell people. If they don't know Steven, or if they wasn't referred to me and somehow found me, I always tell them, I'm like, hey, I am free of charge to you if you're purchasing equipment from me, and I will help you, guide you through these things. But at the end of the day, it's like, you got to be careful who you listen to, because you know as well as I do, This business is not easy. You can get screwed by a lot of people. For instance, as you know this, me and you talk about it before. You go buy new equipment. They give you the quote. They tell you $300,000. And then you sign the quote. And then they hit you for the taxes and 30 grand freight charge. Oh, shit.
Yeah. 10%.
Oh, shit.
Ticket price.
$45,000 freight charge.
Yeah.
And you're like, where do I come up with another 50 grand?
And there evaporates the discount they gave you for being a loyal customer.
You got it, Tony. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. And that's where I advise people and save money most of the time, because it's like, you know, yes, we're a business. We got to make money, but it's like, I want to see you succeed. My worst days are, Tony, you call and say, Steven, I'm losing my ass. How much can you give me back for the club I sold you 4 years ago? Like Tony, when I become friends with you. Right. And that's what I hate. And it's happened many times. And I literally, because I have a heart, I want to see people succeed. Obviously, as people, we know not everybody's going to succeed. But at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like if you put the right people in place, the right processes, the right equipment, and just put a little money here and there back into the facility. That's it. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit back in. Keep the place clean. You're going to be successful. Like, it's not brain scientists, but not everybody wants to put forth the effort to do it, you know, and that's the sad part about life, because even workers, go ahead.
Yeah. And no, I was gonna say, I think to your point, they missed the upside. They missed that by spending it might cost them $4,000, but they don't look at their client retention information. They don't look at what tuition is, or if by upkeeping this facility, they're actually increasing membership because of referrals. Like, those are all 100%. Metrics that you're supposed to be able to track. The era of the dumb gym owner died 20 fucking years ago. It's a business now. It's one of the largest grossing businesses in this country and worldwide. If you're not looking at it from a macro freaking way, you're not expanding out and saying, okay, this is the whole thing. What am I not hitting? Then you're going to fail. That's why the gyms are failing. It's because they're either afraid to put more in, or they didn't put enough in to begin with, whether it be money, sweat equity, labor, or care, to get to a spot where they can take care of those small things that are overwhelming when they show up.
I completely agree with everything you said.
Yeah, it's just, it's frustrating, because people do, and you and I are large humans. So if we're just standing around in the gym, people are going to, without knowing who we are, it's not my gym, it's not your gym, we're in somebody else's gym for some reason. They're going to say, oh, those are two big meatheads.
Yep.
You know, and hey, listen, that's cool with me, because that means they're just not somebody I want to talk to. But
right.
Like, we might be two big meatheads, but we're also, before that, we're also entrepreneurs and family men, and we're successful in both endeavors. So yeah, dude, that's the shit that bothers me when people say, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, or I can't afford to do this. Well, then you can afford to do all these things in your business if you either don't take 100% of what goes into it out. Like, you don't have to put 50% back in every month, but putting an additional stopgap of 5% back into the facility is always going to ensure that your space is running appropriately.
I may or may not have told you this, but did I tell you about the guy bringing $10,000 and laying it on my table a few months back? No. Okay. A guy that I dealt with long time, but never was like the guy that spent a lot of money. He'd come buy a piece or two, like here and there. He brings $10,000 in, lays it on my desk. Like that was supposed to entice me or something. I'm not real sure. And he said, hey, Steven, I need to upgrade my gym. And Tony, very professionally, I said to him, because he'd not bought anything from me probably 5 years. I said, have you checked prices lately? Because I said, this is not going to buy you much. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I said, the pieces you need, he was asking me what he needs. What's that going to buy you, Tony? 2-3 pieces max? Like, not much. Yeah.
Even on the secondary market, you're only going to get 2 or 3 pieces out of that, depending on what you're looking for.
Depending on what it is, right. So what I did, Tony, we went through the warehouse a couple hours. I had them show me photos of the gym. It was filthy. It was like the white paint that had been there for 20 years that had just smudges and shit all on it. Quit. I can just tell the place is filthy. He had not spent any money in years on it. We came back to my office. I said, sir, I'd love to take your money, but I said, this is not going to put a dent in what you need. He said, what do I need to do, Steven? So just so y'all know, backstory, he was making Tony about $8,000 a month at one point, many, many years ago. He had other gyms that trickled in or the surrounding areas and literally took the money from him. And he was borderline breaking even or losing money every month. And basically he was in panic mode, and he had that exact same thing that you just said a little bit ago. He said, oh, I can't spend a lot of money. I'm like, bud, you ain't got no choice. You're going to go out of business or be losing thousands soon. So he hugged me before he left, and Tony, we shook hands, and I did not sell him a thing. I felt better about myself by letting him walk out the door, because I knew if I took his money, that was not going to put what a dent in it. He calls me.
And you're ultimately making yourself culpable for his failure, where letting him go with his money at least allows him the dignity of failing on his own.
Right. Agreed. He called me, Tony, around 9:30 that night. And he said, Steven, I trust you. What do I need to do? I said, man, I'm going to be honest with you. You need probably $75,000 worth of equipment in their minimum. And Tony, what he just needed the more rare stuff. Some of the Rogers, some of the Arsenal, just the Nautilus glute drive, just a little more trendy. Update. Right. Yeah. That's what he was missing. So he said, I trust you. I'm going to find the money. So now, Tony, I'm like a little nervous. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh God, because if it fails, I'm going to feel bad, because I ultimately can't make your gym successful. I can't do it. So what ended up happening, I put him a list together, and I think it was $60-some thousand, like is what I remember. He puts the things, Tony, first month, and I keep saying Tony, I'm sorry, I'm just,
it's all good. You guys have like a bond and a good relationship. Tony talks about you all the time.
Okay. I mean nothing by that, just so we're clear. So I sell him this. He puts the equipment in. The first thing I had him do before we sent the equipment, I had him pull everything out, paint the walls. I think he shut down a weekend, rearrange everything, and he cleaned. It made the world of difference. He made the whole place black. So it was like the new thing. We're all doing it. Yeah, right. So he puts it in. The first month, his draft goes up $1,800. Yep. He's on cloud nine. To this day, this is several months back. He's probably going to get his investment back the first year. And his gym, he said, has a new life. His gym has a new vibe. He's brought in a ton of younger people. He still will tell me, like, Steven, without you, I'd probably be out of business. And I say, look, I just think he didn't believe in himself. He was scared to spend the money. And I've talked to many people, but I'm like, at the end of the day, as men, if we don't believe in ourselves and our business, who's going to believe in your business if you don't believe in it? Yeah, so it's like
fully immersed and competent in your ability to execute on all sides, and you're screwed.
You got it. So it's like I always tell people, it's like here at the warehouse, hell or high water. If Tony's grand opening is next weekend, if I got to drive the shit there myself, we are flying, getting it. We're making it happen. Yeah. And in business, that's what you got to do. There's no turn off switch at 5 o'clock. I was talking to somebody last night about gym equipment at 10 p.m. Like, my wife just knows that, and she supports that. But at the end of the day, it's like in business, especially any successful business, whether it's gym equipment, gym, restaurant, whatever it is, you have to fucking live it, breathe it. You know, you got to dream about the shit at night. And that's what I think makes the person successful, is all those little things. So especially in the gym world, because Tony, it's hard as hell.
Dude, we said this on a previous podcast. We were talking to one of our friends. It's you're either all in on what you're doing, plus whatever extra you've got left, that extra that's supposed to go towards friends or family or fucks. Like, you can't give it to them because you have to put it back over to the business.
Completely agree. I agree.
If that's not the mode that you want to travel in, then just prepare for a bumpy ride or failure. Because if you tell me today, hey, listen, for a catastrophic reason, one of my gyms has to close, you can bet your fucking ass that I'm taking my shit. I'm opening another gym, a bigger one, a
Right.
better one, a nicer one, whatever the hell I have to do. It's not going to stop
Sure.
me from my end goal. Like it won't
Right.
stop you, like it won't stop him. We
Right.
have a clear line, and while the line might not be straight, we're still going to get to the fucking end.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think that we all have that mindset, and maybe somebody listening to this, if they take nothing away, and, you know, obviously that they may not want to be in gym equipment or the gym business, they can just take that mindset that it's like the mind is so strong. It's so powerful that I feel like I implant in my children every day. Like I'll say to my son, I'll be like, Manny, it's right here. Don't be scared of that. And he'll like take a breath and he'll know what that means and he'll do it. It's something as simple as riding his bicycle. He's still a little nervous to ride with and now he's gotten better because he's realized, and he'll say, Dad, it's right here.
How did you, and I don't mean to segue, but I know that I wanted to ask this question since we started,
No,
because I don't think
sure.
I've actually asked you this. So you've been in full-time mode with Superfitness for a little over a decade now, right?
So the gym
No,
started.
the gym equipment side.
Oh, gym equipment. Well, yeah.
Yeah, so like 12 years.
Gym equipment, Tony, probably, 2012, give or take, was.
How in 10 years did you get yourself from where you were to being on the world stage every year as one of like the named title sponsor events for the Olympia? Because that's how I found out about before I even found out about you. Is I've seen your name. We always used to watch it if we could. And then I went to one when you were physically there too, 2 years ago. But it's just like it puts your company on a world stage and in front of 1% of the most elite athletes, whether it's bodybuilding or physique, whatever they're doing up there. It's put you in front of them, and they're people who are now coming to you as customers too because they like all the stuff that you bring to the stage. How did that happen?
Man, that's a good question, Tony.
Because I don't think I ever asked you that.
No, I don't think you have either. I'll tell you this. 2007, I flew to Mr. Olympia because I was so passionate about bodybuilding with $500 in my pocket, and a good friend of mine lost his leg from the knee down, and he went and spent a lot of money in Vegas, which was not good, by the way, and he got us free hotel room and free flights. And I flew there for the first time. And Tony, I would go shake hands. I was competing at the time, and I would go shake hands. If you was the big guy, I would wait in line. I would shake your hand, and I would introduce myself. And I would introduce myself as Superfitness. And literally, I mean, it gets me choked up because I envisioned something big. I just didn't know what direction I was going to go, if that makes sense. Right. At the time, honestly, I probably thought I was going to be on Olympia stage at the time. That was like a dream of mine. I was a huge Arnold fan, bigger, better. You know, when a lot of things happen in life, whether, you know, I've had torn chest, knee replacement, torn bicep, that, especially when kids come along, that changes your perspective of what you want to do in life or your body. But I went around that year introducing myself. And it's funny because some of those people still remember me just going to a show and shaking hands. So let me go up 2 years. I meet Amber, which is my wife now. Her mother lives in Columbus, Ohio at the time. So we start going to the Arnold Classic in 2009. I printed business cards back then, and I would literally give business cards to a guy like you. I would walk around and I'd give business cards, and they were just little makeshift that says, hey, buddy, you know, if you need anything, you know, I sell gym equipment. And it was under one umbrella back then, just Superfitness. So Superfitness was the gym and gym equipment. I had not distinguished the two at the time.
Right.
And I was so passionate about the gym equipment that I would sit and talk to you about one piece and why it's the best for an hour. Like whatever it was, like I can still be that way. I can kind of nerd out on it.
Yeah, that's
But
what I get too.
yeah. And 2009, my friend was in the supplement world and he got me bodybuilding.com's tickets. So I was third row at the Arnold Classic. I sat beside Don Long, Dexter Jackson, Flex Wheeler, Dorian Yates. So
That's crazy.
I kid you not, you can ask Amber. I was like almost shaking. I was so nervous yet so excited. I was like a ball of energy, you know. And I shook hands, took photos, just the whole nine. And from 2007 on, I introduced people as Steven Superfitness. And I think it's a number of years of meeting the right people. One person led to the other person that led to the other person that led to the other person. As far as Olympia goes, literally, obviously I knew a lot of people, you know, that through the bodybuilding world. And during COVID 2020, I got hooked up. I had met Dan Solomon at a buddy of mine's birthday party. And I think, don't quote me on this, 2018 or 19. I can't remember when it was. It was one of the two. And I got a phone call March of 2020 to do his home gym. It was when the gyms were shutting down. And I said, absolutely, I'll be glad. I sent him a dedicated truck down there and we set up a little home gym. He's the president of the Olympia. And Thanksgiving, give or take, it was that time of COVID. They moved the Olympia, if you remember, from Vegas to Florida. And nobody knew this yet. You remember?
Yeah, we were there for it.
No, I know.
Yeah.
That particular year, I got a phone call when nobody knew it saying, look, I need your help. Can you provide the equipment backstage? And if you remember, this is when nobody had nothing.
Yeah.
And
shit. I had to buy
right
shit before we even had a gym just so that we knew we had it.
Right. I said, man, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I can. Well, I said, he called it like 10 p.m. I said, give me the night to think about it. I got off the phone. I said, Amber, I got asked to do the Olympia. This is 3 years ago. I got asked to do the Olympia. She says, Steven, I don't give a shit if we driving the shit down there ourselves. You're doing it. I guess it's going on 4 years now. But I was like, okay. And so it was so much pressure on me. But at the end of the day, I made the shit happen. And sometimes I truly feel like things just fall in place. But Tony, Olympia aside, like to meet all the people, like I have personal friendships in my phone for so long, it still amazes me to this day who I'm networked with and who I can call, because I'm just so blessed and thankful. And if you see sometimes, I'll make a random video either on my Instagram or on my story, and it's just coming from the heart. I'm walking through the warehouse just thankful that I've met you and so many people, because without you guys that promote me, I would be nothing within the industry. And I'm just humbly grateful.
No, I feel the same way. It's the people that you meet along the way.
100%. 100%. And sometimes I still blink and I'm like, is that real? Like, is my name on the screen? Or like, what's cool is when I get a random text, like during the year, and it'll be like behind the scenes of bodybuilding, and like they'll see Superfitness in the background and they'll screenshot it to me, you know? It's just like so funny to see that. People think it's so cool, but I'm just so appreciative.
I know, I love it, man. It's part of the whole journey.
Absolutely.
Steve, I have to bounce, unfortunately.
It's cool.
Steven, do you have any more questions you want to pick up with? I don't want to leave abruptly, but I'm getting told it's time for me to go.
No, you're fine, bud.
It's all good. My Wi-Fi keeps going in and out, so that's the only thing I've been dealing with. But I wanted to ask you, how do you really balance dealing with, having a family, you have 2 kids, and also building, your business the way you're building it?
Oh, good question, Stephen. So, to be honest with you, and you know this, I told a story on my social media, maybe I don't know, a few months back, and a lot of people inboxed me questions. I don't think when you're building the business and in the trenches at first, there's any balance of life. I truly don't, to build something amazing. Anybody from the Elon Musk and all these people, they basically lived, breathed it. They slept at the office, whatever it took, right? But now that the business can kind of run itself somewhat, even though I'm in the trenches every day, like every day I'm at the warehouse, I truly, I try to focus. First of all, I'm not on social media unless it's business from about 9 a.m. till probably 7 or 8 p.m. So I take that distraction off the plate. If it's not the business account that's something for the business, I don't look at social media, or I try not to. Secondly, I have become much better on the weekends, being in tune to my children, being in tune to my wife. Not years ago, if you wanted gym equipment on a Sunday afternoon, 4 p.m., hey, Steven, can you meet me at the warehouse? Sure. When do you want to meet? I would politely tell you, sir, I go to church on Sundays. I can meet you tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. Like, I just try to do a better balance of life now, because when the kids got thrown into things, I realized I'm never going to get that time back. And in the end of the day, money don't mean shit if you don't have somebody to share that love with. And that's why I'm passionate about what I do, because money aside, yes, the business has to make money. It has to. But at the end of the day, my wife will tell you, I'm very particular on an old piece who I sell it to. And I'll ask you, like, are you trying to resell it, or is it going to your gym? So I'm kind of quirky when it comes to putting pieces in good people's hands. And I think as far as like the kid wife situation, prioritizing time, I always tell this. I try to do 15 hours worth of work in 8 or 10 and really just bust it during the day. That way I don't have to do what I used to do. And like literally working 100 hours a week back in the day. I don't want to do that no more. If push comes to shove, I will do whatever it takes. But you get what I'm saying. As a married man trying to do things, I think there needs to be somewhat of a balance, especially when kids come into play. But a 22-year-old, if you're listening to this, single guy, man, get it while you can get it, because there's going to become a time in someone's life that you can't do those things no more, or your body just can't physically do it.
True.
I don't know if I could do some of the things that I can do. Too. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think in my personal, like, I've been work. Well, now we're getting ready to have our first kid. So it's like trying to figure out, hey, how do you manage to go after all of your goals? Because like you still have to accomplish everything you want to accomplish. You have a vision, you have goals, but also be present, be there. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Like I try to ask kind of everybody who is successful to where I want to be, to where I'm like, wait, how do they still manage all of that without losing the family or losing the wife?
It's a difficult task. And me and my wife do some things like this, that like people will zoom in and we'll have 10, 20 people on a call and we'll say, communication is key. Hang on one second.
Yep, you're good.
Communication. So let's say me and you are friends. You bought equipment from me. Something got messed up in shipping. Communication is key. I'm not going to like get mad at you or anything like that. Let's figure out the problem and solve it. Same thing in marriage. When you have that kid, I assure you there's going to be some problems. And when I say problems, maybe you or her not sleeping at night. Like, there's going to be some issues, and communicate, and you're going to fix them. You're going to be fine. It's the best thing you've ever done is have that child. Trust me. Anybody who tells you any different is full of shit. But at the end of the day, it is going to cause you a few headaches, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I can already see that. And we haven't even had the kid yet. Just the nursery and this and that. it's definitely a new adventure we're getting ready to get into.
But it's the
What-
best thing ever.
What like you were talking about, you point to your kid, you point to your head and kind of say like vision, visualize. Is that what you were saying? So like
Yeah,
what other
saying
things are you kind of doing to instill that
for
mindset
my
in them?
for my kids.
Yep.
So I'll tell you something. So I grew up going to my father's restaurant and working since a young boy, and I don't think that's enough in today's society. I don't think that's common anymore. So almost every Saturday or one day a week, my son comes with me to work. Even if we don't have customers to meet, we might sweep the floors. I'm instilling work ethic in him daily. On every Saturday and Sunday, he gets up with me, goes in my home gym with me, and does cardio and works out with me. I want to instill in him the fitness lifestyle, but not just the fitness lifestyle, to show him regimen, to show him discipline, to show him that shit don't grow on trees. My son's name is Manny. And I tell him, I say, Manny, we got to work to get these Power Wheels, or we got to work to eat this Chick-fil-A you love. And he'll say to me on Saturday, he'll say, Dad, we got to go to work today, because he's already getting it. And to me, it's what we show. Action speaks louder than words. You know this. So I feel like if he sees me busting my ass to feed my family, and my wife sells real estate and she's busting her ass, I feel like my kid's going to be a go-getter. He's going to have no choice because it's all he knows. It's second nature. I tell people like this, like I eat pretty healthy. But if you feed your kid McDonald's 3 times a day, 7 days a week, he don't know no different. So of course he's not going to like chicken breast and rice. But if you fed him chicken breast and rice and he never had McDonald's, it's second nature to him. All they know is chicken breast and rice, if that makes sense. So it's the little details that we instill in these kids. And to me, if we don't instill in the youth, who's going to? If we don't teach them to walk a straight line and to be, if we don't teach them right from wrong, basically, who's going to do that? And so to me, it's very important. It's probably, in fact, my most important thing right now is to be a good father to my children.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying was a lot of people have given their responsibility to the schools, to everyone else, where it's your responsibility to raise your kid the right way and not to blame somebody else for what's going on with your kid. We're the victim mentality of everything. I
completely agree.
Now, one of our questions that we kind of ask everybody, this is usually Tony's question, but I got to steal it from him. What we call it the Basu moment. So when we say like, what is your Basu moment? What is the moment where you kind of realized that you were on this path and that you were going to accomplish everything you wanted to, no matter what?
Golly. Like, what was the aha moment, or when I realized?
Yeah, what was kind of your moment that you kind of realized, like, I am going to succeed no matter what? You have people, like you said in the beginning, thinking you're crazy, and you have to go against all this, and you only have your inner belief. What's the moment you're like, you know what? I got this. Like, everything just clicks.
Probably 10 years ago, we had our first set of international customers come over and buy from us to ship back overseas in containers. And when they flew in and they bank wired us the money and stuff like that, I was seriously like, oh shit, these people flew from Dubai to buy from me in Burlington, North Carolina? I'm like, I used to tell my father this. So my dad owns a little diner. It's like a hamburger, hot dog, ice cream spot. And I said, Dad, you can only serve so many cheeseburgers a day. But I said, I want to be the guy selling the hamburger meat to all the restaurants around the world. And I said, but you're only going to make a small penny from each piece. You're not going to make a lot on one cheeseburger. So I had the different mindset. So for me, that was the moment that I was like, man, I can sell this shit anywhere. And I built up the customer base. And if people like me and I do a good job, because I'm like a no bullshit type guy, like I'm going to be straight up with you. I feel like certain people appreciate that. Some people may not like that. So, I'm not saying I'm for everybody, but at the end of the day, I have been doing some of the same business for over 15 years with the same people. And I'm so appreciative, not only for them, but like they've become dear friends to me, like Tony. And so it's just important to me to keep those relationships. There has been times I've lost money to keep a relationship because something happened, like I forgot the invoice or something. Who knows? Things happen, slip away in business, and you just move on, But I think that was a big years ago aha moment. And then last year, I got asked to give an award on the Olympia stage. And to me, from a bodybuilding competitor standpoint, who thought I was going to always be a competitor on that Olympia stage. So that's the biggest bodybuilding event in the world. And no, I was not on there competing, but I was on there, my name and my wife's name called out, and I'm giving an award to somebody. That meant the world to me. It was just like another aha moment, like, wow. I had people texting me being like, dude, I cannot believe you're up there giving the award. Like, that's amazing. And so little things like that mean more to me than anything. It means more than money. It means more. I tell people money does not make happiness. Some people seek success, but they don't see the pain behind the success. They don't see the struggle to get to the success, or they don't see still to this day, every day, the bills and the payroll and the insurance behind what I do, or not just what I do, but any small business owner, entrepreneur. There's a lot of things behind the scenes. So both of those moments in my life were big deals to me.
Yeah, and I can just feel like coming out of you, just the passion you have for fitness. Obviously, when I saw your 6'2", 240, I'm 6'2", 180. I'm like, damn, this is a big fucking guy.
Yeah. I'm not little for sure.
No, but just like your passion around fitness, like you just were going to succeed. There was just no other option. And I just love like your story already. Just the people who watch this are going to be like, holy shit, well, why don't I believe in my fucking self? I just need to start. I just need to begin. And I feel like that's like our biggest kind of mission, because so many people don't have any belief. And it's like seeing guys like you're saying like, look, I'm just a regular guy. I just jumped in and did it. It just makes all the world a difference, and it's more of what we need kind of today.
I couldn't agree more. I tell people every day, if you don't do shit in this world, believe in yourself. Start believing shit will change for you. Believe. It's like I tell people, if you're the bathroom janitor, be the best damn bathroom janitor you can be, and pray to God somebody sees your hard work ethic and they're going to rise you to a different position, if that makes sense. If I had to go back tomorrow and become that guy on the low man of the totem pole, I promise you somebody's going to notice my work ethic, because I'm going to bust my ass to get removed from that spot so that I can climb the ladder. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like you said with the guy with the gym equipment that you're putting in the back of his car, you never know when you're going to meet that person that could take your business or your life to the next level. So you have to be 100%. Prepared every single day.
100%. 100%.
All right, Steve. I really appreciate your time. I feel like I know you. I'm going to have to fly down next time with Tony just to check out the equipment and check out your place.
I would love to. And listen, I would love to do this again on different topics, or just shoot the shit with you guys. Anytime, let me know. I truly enjoyed it. I didn't know how it was going to be. I've not done many of these things, but please, anytime, let me know.